Efren, thank you very much for coming to my show. My name is Barry Herring, and my show is called Alter. I was looking at current events and looking for a way to show these things using a lens, using photography, but not just as a matter of documenting something, but actually forming a narrative and by altering it. Part of my show started looking at altarpieces, and then I realized that the word altar had two different spellings and two different meanings, as did the word piece. So I'd like to show you a couple of my pieces, and we'll get to an altarpiece. One over here sort of demonstrates the kind of work that I'm trying to do, where I'm layering various images together to try to achieve a certain kind of feeling from the image, as much as trying to just document what happened. Photography used to be believed that it was showing an accurate summary of something. If that was an elephant, photograph of an elephant, that's what elephants look like. But we realized over time that photography, like all things, tends to have fake things associated with it. And I'm interested in twisting some of the things that we believe about things and trying to use different imagery to tell a different kind of narrative. This is Foreigner, and it's a 5-panel photograph. It starts at either end. But at this end, it's talking about what is happening in the world right now, where there are places where people feel that it's too dangerous to live, and they're forced through their circumstances to come to a safer place, in this case to Canada, to the American-Canadian border actually, and they cross over in a place in Quebec, over here. What I find interesting about this is the same thing was happening 200 years ago, where there was a big war taking place, the American Revolutionary War, and there were people who were on the wrong side of that conflict, and they were forced, or they decided it was better for their interest to actually move out of the United States, and they were, in some cases, as they say, driven away, and they crossed over to Canada into Quebec at the same border. It's the same sort of sets of activities are driving people to move toward here, and then suddenly we start looking at a border, and it becomes an issue of us and them, we and they, whatever, who's in and who's out. But it's the same kind of process that's happening, and I wonder if people, because these were my ancestors who came to Canada, this was our path, and you wonder, well, what is the difference between how these people came and landed? Why should we expect anything more out of these? We should be more opening. This piece is known as Scrutiny, and it really has to do with governance or a democratic process. Part of my concern is that we have a democracy which really requires people are involved, and it really requires that a lot of people get involved in making change. If we don't get involved, we end up with what we end up with. And if this works for people, then that's fine, and if it doesn't, then it's important that they pay attention to what's going on. And this especially applies to a younger generation. A man like this, a lot of what's happening in the world is going to have less impact on him than it's going to have an impact on the younger people. And there aren't enough people getting involved at this sort of level in our society to avoid what's happening here. The rich are always going to hold power so they can remain rich. And the only way that this thing can really work is if more people get involved here. So this really is a photograph of that, and it's based on the Eisenhower altarpiece. That's what this is. Thanks, Efren.